My name is Matt Kelly, and in this video we've ripped out the entire floor out of this boat. We're replacing it in the next 10 minutes. Alright, Mr. Beast, calm down. So, I was walking around the boat and I noticed when I stepped from the side platform down onto the floor, a bit of a crack that I could hear sort of crumbling, which did concern me a little bit. So I figured that if I was going to replace just some of the rotten floor sections, I should replace the whole front section of the boat that's most exposed to weather, knowing that if some are rotten, others are getting there, and it's worth just doing a clean slate, replace it all. So that's where we begin. I started out by removing all the panels from the boat. Now, I was a bit concerned about how easy or difficult this would be, but just self-tapping screws straight in meant that they all came out really quickly. After getting all the pieces out, I wanted to investigate just how bad the plywood really is. Turns out it wasn't great. Look at that. All right, this is the centerpiece from the floor. What I'm going to do is just cut a bit of carpet off the edge here, take it into the local Bunnings as a starting point, and see if I can get a nice colour match on the carpet. There we go. So I did the impossible. I went to the shops, sample piece of old carpet, and I tried to get a perfect match. All right, we're back. This was our sample cut off. This is the colour that I was able to get. It's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. I actually wouldn't usually care, but because I'm gonna leave the stuff on the inside of the boat on the raised floor, I'm gonna leave, which is this. So I wanted something that was close enough. This is definitely close enough. However, it is a bit thicker. The hard base isn't a lot thicker, but the fabric obviously just extends out a bit wider. Now, I don't know if that's just because it's been worn down over a decade. It probably is the case. This probably was like the new stuff, but what I'm gonna have to do is I'll just allow a couple of mil extra when I'm cutting the wood, just so that when this wraps around the corner, I've still got enough clearance for all the panels to fit in together, just to cover the thickness. But it's a pretty good color match. I'm sure if I did a lot more research and went to other places, I could do better, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. And with that, we've got 6 meters of it. We also got 2 giant sheets of plywood. While I was out at the shops, I got a whole bunch of other supplies, from drop sheets to measuring cups, brushes, epoxy, basically everything that I thought I would need, right down to the plywood and the carpet. I started out by tracing around the existing floor pieces on the plywood. However, knowing I had to allow for the carpet, and the new carpet was going to be thicker than the old carpet, given the old carpet was compacted, I had to go in about 5 mil around each edge. So I basically went around each of the original floorboards and then came in about 5 mil and then went around again. There's probably a much easier way of cutting these up. A track saw would have been nice, a much higher quality jigsaw would have been good too, but I'm gonna sand these down, they're gonna get resin coated, they're gonna get carpeted, so it actually doesn't matter that much, provided they're about the right shape. When I did the first one, I compared the new piece to the old piece, just to make sure that it felt like, just eyeballing it, it was about right, and I think this is close enough, so we move on. Once I had the first one done, I then proceeded to cut all of the pieces of plywood and sand down the edges. I didn't film all of this because it's much the same, but you can imagine what happened. Piece went down, traced around it, came in 5 mil, cut them out, sanded down the edges. It all worked. It just takes a long time because there's a lot of intricate little corners and curves. So like I say, you'll have to take my word for it. We got there. I then jumped into resin coating. Now, in this case, I used a 2-to-1 epoxy resin. This is probably an overkill part of the process. It's marine grade ply. The previous floor definitely wasn't resin coated, but I felt like if I was going to get any longevity out of this, it was just worth it. And for the sake of, $100 in resin, it's worth the extra step. So I resin coated the top side, let it dry, and then when I flipped it over, got the sander, touched down any spots where runs had come around the edges and pulled up just to remove any high spots, and then resin coated the other side. I was also very careful to resin coat the edges very, very well, because that's the grain that's been cut. So I knew that rubber gloves on, finger in the resin, just get it around the edges there. And at least you've got a good coating. All right, that is the underside coated. I did the top side last night. I've also been around the edges of it with fingers in rubber gloves to make sure that there's just no exposed edges at all. And I'm gonna let that dry. Once that's dry, I'll be able to come back and carpet it all, and then it's up for the install. So cheers for watching so far. Let's wait for this to dry. So I used contact glue or contact cement to glue the carpet down. Basically you go on the carpet side, do a coating, on the floor side, do a coating, let it tack off so it gets pretty dry, it takes about half an hour. And then when you put the pieces together, they just lock really, really well. So I didn't need to use staples or nails or anything else mechanical to hold them down. The glue did all the heavy lifting, which was good because I didn't want to go to all this effort to epoxy it and then go around it with a staple gun and put a whole bunch of holes in it. So that's actually, I'll take that little win. The glue worked incredibly well. But then tragedy struck. If you ever think you're going to be really efficient and buy your contact cement in 4-litre drums, don't walk into your garage and drop one of them on their side, because it will split the lid and 4 litres of contact cement will go all over your garage floor, which is there. In panic, I then got a rag, started wiping up this giant puddle of glue and wiping it onto pieces, so at least I wasn't wasting $100 worth of glue, which meant it was all out my arms, which meant that in the 5 minutes that I was in panic trying to clean it, it all dried on me, which meant that I had to literally wax my own arms with, you can't even tell, but with my fingers to remove all of the remaining glue. And I don't know if that's even gonna come off. I assume it will, but lesson learned. Be more careful. If you're gonna buy inefficient large drums, don't drop them. 1 litre drum would have been fine if I dropped it. That would be easy to clean. 4 litres is a lot of fluid. So anyway, we'll keep going. And another day's passed and I'm almost done. Really just those two to go. Those two. I left the most complicated ones to last. I should have done them earlier, but at least I know the technique now, so that works. The thing behind, that's just a little shelf I'm making for the house, but I figured that while I'm doing this, I can cover it in carpet, so that's just that. Everything else is done. All the pieces are over there. There's some of the old pieces. That's some overlaid over the new one. The new ones overlaid over the old ones. These are all new. I'll set them all up, but I've just got to finish basically pre-gluing, going away 40 minutes, letting it all set up, and then folding it over and letting it lock down. Amazingly, haven't had to use staples. That's been really, really cool. I thought I'd have to use staples when I don't have much room to fold these over, but the glue, if you let it dry, like touch dry, and then put two pieces against each other, it's incredible how much they just lock in and set immediately. So I'm gonna get these pre-glued, glued down, and then we're done with this part of the process, which is amazing. And we move on to the next part, which is pre-drilling all the holes using the templates from the old ones for the screw holes, and then getting some epoxy in all of them so that they don't become the weak point in the future. Then we go install. Almost done. Alright, so what I haven't spoken about much is, in addition to doing the floor, I'm also doing the door. The door has a latch, 2 hinges. Now, I don't know how they did it in the original one, it's over there, but it looks like, you can actually, so you probably can't see it, but it looks like it was one giant piece of carpet. They've wrapped it around all the edges except for one seam along one edge. What I've done instead is a bit different. I decided to basically sandwich the plywood with 2 pieces of carpet that are identical, and leave the plywood gap which you might be able to see straight down there. And then what I've done is cut these long strips that are just under 12 mil wide. And what these long strips will do is get contact glued into this gap all the way along here. Sort of. You actually can't see what I'm doing here. But basically that will get contact glued all the way along, forced in. The good thing is because this gets like locked in, sandwiched in, it's going to create a really, really solid seal. But that's what it will look like in the end. So basically, it'll look the same in theory, but I think it'll be much more clean. I don't have to try and do tricky corners and fold it in and cover the folds and all that. I can just have these two nice flat pieces and then just line the edges. So what I've got to do to make all that work though is now I've got to run glue along all of these and glue along the inside of here, which is going to be a little bit tricky, and yeah, get it finished. G'day guys, a couple of days have passed and I've done a little bit more work on the floor. The biggest thing has been, now that all the carpet is glued down properly and it's all done, I've been pre-drilling all the holes, so I want to fill them with epoxy before we then go and install at the boat. So I'll show you what that looks like before we get the epoxy in there. Now these little black circles, there, you can see them all around. So they're just, I just drew over where the hole is, because otherwise you lose it in the carpet. I'm going to flip them over, fill them with that, full of epoxy, let it sit for a second, and then let it drain out, and just wipe it off on the outside so that I just want to get some epoxy inside the holes. I've drilled them on the larger side of the screws, so it shouldn't knock too much out of there. And then I've just, I'm reusing the little grab tags for the hatches. I've just installed them on the underside. They came off the old ones, which are now in the big rubbish pile. And we're getting close. So as soon as I've got these resin filled, these holes, it's ready for install. All right, moment of truth. I've got all the pieces, all the holes drilled, and let's see if it fits. All right, first piece is in, second piece is in. This is going arguably too smoothly. Anyone who works on boats knows that that shouldn't have happened that easily. The holes should have been in the wrong place. The shape should have been miscut. Something should have gone wrong by now. I don't know. This has gone very well. This corner here, you can sort of see down there slightly, which means I was slightly off on the curve. But, like, I don't know if you'd notice that if I didn't mention it. Feels solid. That is unreal. Even the colour match is pretty good from the old stuff here to the new stuff. But it's pretty good. There is a screw under there that I just can't get enough clearance of the big screwdriver. So I'll need to go in with the little one to get those, but that's alright. There's one on both sides. But the floor's in. Alright, so I'm a little bit off with this. I think they're in fine. I think the hatch will be fine and this cover will be fine. They're in hard against this edge, as far in as it can go. But there's an overlap there. A pretty dramatic overlap, so I don't know how that happened, because I did use the old one as a template. I'm going to test fit the hatch and the cover, and if they fit, then I'm just going to cut that little edge there flush and the screw holes are off slightly, just screw new holes into the boat. It's not perfect, but I don't think it'll be a problem. I just could not find a way to get this to fit, so I ended up taking one piece out, peeling back the carpet, cutting literally about 10 mil off just one little edge, folding carpet back over, smashing it with Sikaflex because I didn't want to take it home and have to re-epoxy it, but smashed it with Sikaflex, that whole external edge, and then slot them back together. Okay, updates. Sorry, the door's just sitting there, it's not actually locked in yet. This is all in. The centre hatch needs to be trimmed just a tiny bit, so I've got to do that. But these ones are all in and attached and working beautifully. That's good. This centerpiece that goes in here is perfect size. This one here is just very slightly, I don't know how this quite happened, but you can see there it just doesn't sit down. So that's got to be, one edge has to be trimmed. I need to do that, but aside from that, I've now got to attach this door. It's just sitting in there, I've just forced it in, which is actually a great size. And you can see there I've actually left a bit of clearance at the bottom for water to drain through. So I think water pulling up against the door previously is what caused the floor down there to rot. So now there's drainage down the side, down there, and there's also room for it to flow through, drain in the sides and at the back here. So hopefully that solves that problem. Anyway, let's get this screwed on. Yeah, hole needs to be bigger at the bottom. Yeah, I think this will all compact. It's carpet, so as that compacts it'll go in and out easier, but hey, it's on and it works and it's got drainage, so it'll be a lot better than it was before when it was hard up against the bottom. Alright, so for the final piece, at my parents' place where the boat is, I peeled back the carpet, got my dad's track saw, plunge cut down into the piece to cut off 10 mil remaining that didn't need to be there anymore. And I knew that it was about 10 mil, so I plunge cut it off. It's come together pretty nicely. I'm now going to epoxy that edge, fold the carpet back over, re-glue it all, get it installed, and then we're done. All right, early morning start. Got the final one in. Fits perfectly. And we're done. And then yeah, the door. Now, I would imagine that many people watching this will say, like, you should have used Coosa, you should have used Starboard, you should have used a composite material, you should have used Ali, and there's a bunch of very, very smart reasons why those are all a good idea. I knew that plywood, the old floor lasted, 10 plus years. If this floor being resin coated got me another 5 years, 10 years, I'd be stoked. That would be a great result from this. So I'm not disappointed. I've actually got a new cover made for the front of the boat as well, so it should give it more protection than it's ever had before. It's also probably the cheapest way to do it and the easiest way with the tools that I've got available to me. So, for the sake of, a few $100 in materials, I'm able to build a whole new floor. That's a pretty good result. If I tried to use a composite material, I would have spent a lot more money, a lot more time, and possibly even needed different tools to make the job work. So while it's not a perfect solution, I've got a good 5-10 years out of this, and I'm stoked with that. The resin should make a huge difference. You're probably also thinking, why carpet? Why carpet? Everyone's using SeaDek or, the rubber 3M stick-on stuff that looks like a real floor but isn't. I just like carpet, and I know that's controversial in a boat that does get a bit of blood on it, and I know that it traps water, and I know all of that. It's not ideal, but I think the softness of the carpet, the kids are in the boat running around. It's a nice finish. It's a very comfortable finish. If I was doing the entire boat from scratch and it was a completely new project, then yeah, I probably would do SeaDek or something similar and get a really nice designed finish around the whole boat, but I honestly think this is good enough. I want to say thank you for watching this if you got this far. Like I say, this is not a rocket science video. This is not something that, you know, it takes a genius to work out how to cut out some floorboards, carpet them and get them in your boat. But if it was useful at all, I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave me a comment, give it a little thumbs up or hit subscribe if you haven't already. And one more thing, that glue I dropped did in fact come off. So that's a little win. We'll take a win for the good guys. And thank you again for watching. I appreciate it very, very much. See you soon.